Welcome everybody to Tom and James for a fine Friday. James, today is the Friday before Thanksgiving.
It is the Friday before Thanksgiving, and bro, we got a show planned, man.
We do.
So I'm switching my background.
I was looking at all your backgrounds. While you're looking for that, I'm going to just say, here's a few things we get to talk about. So high gas prices are intended effect of Joe Biden's energy policy. It is not an accident. It is intentional. Then there's this out of the Western Journal.
Surprised.
Power company warns customers of blackouts as Biden administration considers shutting yet another pipeline. But there's more. Trouble in paradise. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are sour on each other. Apparently they're not getting along too well, James. And I have several other things I want to bring to your attention. And I want to ask about Russia. And I want to ask you about Russia shooting down a satellite.
Oh, yeah, bro. I did a story on this 2 days ago.
You did, and that's why I'm going to ask you about it. But before we go there, I'm going to ask you about something else that you have ready to go. It is about artificial intelligence.
Yes. So I did this video on Thursday. I released it right after my interview with the Consul General and a member of the Knesset, which I can't talk about now.
Yeah.
That's because we're anyway. All right. So this video is going to make you sick. And let me just tell you, this video is like unbelievable. And the reason why it's unbelievable is because you are going to hear somebody in the mainstream media say all the things that we have been saying already. And by the way, this is Anderson Cooper on behalf of 60 Minutes speaking with what sounds like a Jewish scientist, I think. I mean, or maybe even French. I don't know. But what this guy is saying is it should come as absolutely no surprise to any of us. It's kind of mind-boggling. I'm going to go to a black screen real quick and then bring this on for you. And this is crazy, okay? You got to listen to this interview. Listen to what he has to say. I'm going to turn up the volume real quick so that you can hear this. Just listen, okay? And I'll stop it when necessary.
We'll soon have the power to re-engineer our bodies and brains, whether it is with genetic engineering or by directly connecting brains to computers or by creating completely non-organic entities, artificial intelligence, which is not based at all on the organic body and the organic brain. And these technologies are developing at breakneck speed. Maybe the biggest thing that we are facing is really a kind of evolutionary divergence. Consciousness is the ability to feel things like pain and pleasure and love and hate. Intelligence is the ability to solve problems. But computers or artificial intelligence, they don't have consciousness.
By the way, can I just tell you this? He's absolutely wrong in his assertion. He says intelligence is the ability to be able to solve problems. The problem is what happens if your problem has something to do with an emotional component that associatively values something functional, right? It's a different, he's wrong. But what he's about to say is scary, and I'll rewind it for context.
Computers or artificial intelligence, they don't have consciousness. They just have intelligence. They solve problems in a completely different way than us. They will be able to solve more and more problems better than us without having any consciousness, any feelings.
And they will have power over us.
They are already gaining power over us.
Harari is concerned the pandemic has opened the door for more intrusive kinds of data collection, including biometric data.
What we have seen so far, it's corporations and governments collecting data about where we go, who we meet, what movies we watch. The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. To hack a human being is to get to know that person better than they know themselves. And based on that, to increasingly manipulate you. Certainly now we are at a point when we need global cooperation. You cannot regulate the explosive power of artificial intelligence on a national level.
Oh. I just look. I don't know about you, bro, but that just scares the living snot out of me. So many things I could just tear apart in that statement in and of itself, and so many things we could tackle. But holy smokes!
Yeah. I can ask you about some things. All right. For one thing, he mentioned this: you have to hack a human being from the inside. That's one thing. He mentions we need global cooperation in regulating artificial intelligence. It cannot be done on a nationalistic level. Those are all three things. All three of those things massively speak to what the Bible tells us about the last days in the mark of the beast. It is a system that no one will be able to escape except you receiving Jesus. I mean, you can run and hide for 7 years or something like that. But it's a system that's going to be crushing, conquering, devastating. Remember when we talked a few weeks back, James, we were talking about Guterres from the UN, and he said what we need is a system of multilateralism with teeth. And in Daniel chapter 7, that beast that's described by Daniel is going to have teeth that going about and devour. They're crushing everybody. That's what that was just described. And so it has to be not on a national level. Hence, what do we have? Do you think that has anything to do with the borders being removed? All over the world. Well, not in Russia and not in China, but the Western world.
Bro, it has everything to do with the New World Order. It has everything to do with the abolishment of nationalism, aka Christian influence in a nation, right? It has everything to do with what we are talking about when we talk about the idea of those who are the restraining force being removed from the earth. I think it has everything to do with that. I think he is setting it up for the absence of Christians in the world.
So when you say he is setting it up for the absence of Christians in the world, who would the he be?
Well, I mean, partially this is just God allowing it to happen, right? But this is Satan inspiring people to be making the right decisions, pulling the right plugs and pushing the right things right into the middle. I mean, this is exactly what we've come to expect.
Okay, well, this brings me to another question. On Tuesday on your live program, it was the theme was the spirit of Antichrist. So I'm looking at this going, this is really what this speaks to.
Oh, bro, this is absolutely that. This is absolutely what we're talking about.
So, okay, so let's take it into the political realm. We watch what Biden's doing. I have this article. The high gas prices are intentional, which you and I have thought of all along.
We've been talking about that for a long time.
The things, the problem that you have off of Long Beach with all the boats, that's intentional. The store shelves are going to be missing more and more items. That's intentional. The rising meat prices, rising food prices, not being able to get items. These are all intentional things. Power being shut off. This is in Missouri. Power company warns customers of blackouts as Biden administration considers shutting yet another pipeline. These are intentional things. And it's bringing about all of this stuff. So when you look at it, you start looking at the political realm. Listen, America was not going to be a great nation. These globalists had their agenda already. You cannot have this nationalistic policy. It is going to do everything it possibly can to make sure that, as he even said, in order to bring about the regulation, what he says, of artificial intelligence, it has to be global. That's just mind-boggling, but true. I mean, we know it.
And I am looking for a video right now. That's why you see me looking up right now. I'm looking for a video. I'll just tell you what it is since I can't find it right off the cuff because I had it set aside. But I've got a video of Jen Psaki letting it slip, aka Freudian slip, in a news conference where she says it's actually great that gas prices are rising.
Oh, just recently she said,
yeah, just recently. This was a few days ago because it's going to keep everybody from using so much fuel.
Yeah.
Save the world.
Yeah.
While 400 jets have converged upon a completely failed COP26, praise God, right? And of the 400, we're not counting the probably 15 to 20 jets that followed the 2 Air Force Ones that flew in to be able to facilitate the 57 car entourage that took Joe Biden to his sleeping place in the COP26.
Yeah. Joe Biden's sleeping place was during the meeting.
Yes. Yes. That's my point.
Yeah, it wasn't the hotel room.
I had a 56 car entourage to go to sleep. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, so you look at all of these things. This is the direction it's going. This guy says it. And this brings me to another question. I still want to get to what he says. This has to be in your body too, to hack the human being, right? Yeah. I don't know how much of that we can go into, but I'm going to ask you. Okay, so when you look at all of these things that are happening at the same time, I throw out cryptocurrency, right? So you and I have talked a little bit about it before, but Bitcoin, I'm sure you get questions like I do, should I buy Bitcoin and so forth? You know, I'm not a financial advisor, right? Yep. But Bitcoin as we know it, it may be working well right now, but the problem that these globalists have with Bitcoin is the same problem they have with the nation of America, a nationalistic thing. Bitcoin is decentralized. So just as it was with regulating AI, they have to regulate, they have to centralize a cryptocurrency in order for it to make the globalists happy. They can't have these other cryptocurrencies out there, and there's a lot of them that are all decentralized. They may work out well now, but when that time comes in the tribulation period, listen, it's not going to be Bitcoin as we know it then because of the exact same reason that we just watched in the CNN interview. It's the exact same reason in all of this.
And why don't we play this really quickly? Okay. I don't know if you've got time for me to play this.
Yeah, I do. I was actually hoping you would. Let's play it.
Okay. This is Jeff Brownstone. He's the founder of Brownstone Research, talking about the effects of cryptocurrency and why we have to go there, according to the government officials. Let me play this. It's actually disgusting. He's very perceptive. Yeah, I really like him. But he's being interviewed by Breitbart, and he's he's a very intelligent man. What he's saying is completely correct. But take a listen.
Paper currencies from the markets today, they absolutely would. And the motivation is really simple. Most of the cash transactions that take place, governments can't see, they can't track. They have to trust that a business is going to pay taxes on those transactions. They have to trust that somebody that might sell their car in cash is going to report the sale and pay tax on that transaction. But so many of these transactions go unreported. And so there is a very material motivation for governments to be able to see, analyze, track, and tax every transaction. And so the pandemic was actually a great catalyst to moving towards contactless transactions. Many businesses, I'm sure you saw this, Alex, but they wouldn't accept cash. Everything had to be on a credit card. Businesses moved to contactless machines where you can scan your phone or your credit card, and the transaction happens immediately. And so there was a major push to make these things not only simple to use, but also in many cases required to use. But that's literally just the very first step. The next step.
So crazy. And we don't have the time to play his video of what the next step was and all that. But man, let me tell you, bro, this is so indicative of everything that we read about in Revelation chapter 13. We know it's coming.
It is. So when we've been telling people it's going to go this way for a long time and just, mocking us, making fun of us and all those types. I mean, I can't help but think back just a couple of years ago, the mocking and the scoffing. What's really more remarkable now is the mocking and the scoffing is continue as these globalists are putting it in our face exactly what they're going to do. But they put a spin on it so everybody says it's wonderful, whether it be climate change or like this AI stuff. Hey, it's going to be good because it's going to be intelligence without the emotional involvement. Imagine, that is a beast system, isn't it? When you look at what Revelation 13 describes as the beast, there you have. So I got a question for you that's going to be out there. Do you think Antichrist will be augmented by AI?
I don't think so.
They'll be augmented by Satan?
Yeah, I know a lot of people have kind of come to that conclusion. I don't think it's biblical. And I want to be careful how I say that. I think that the augmentation of the Antichrist, by definition, will be through satanic inspiration. Now, I do think the image of the beast will be augmented by AI. I think that the tools that are used to encourage the buying or selling, with proof of the mark of the beast, will be augmented by AI, most definitely. But the beast himself will not be. And the reason why I say that is because if just according to the description that you read about, right, or that you heard about from this guy, where he talks about the fact that you are void of conscience, and that's how you begin to solve problems. Well, the problem is this final Antichrist will not be void of conscience. As a matter of fact, this Antichrist will be very, very emotional in the demand to be worshiped as God in his direct, fierce antithetical opposition towards God. AI doesn't do that, right? AI doesn't say, well, there's a God and I hate that God and I come against that God. No, this will be far more powerful than anything AI could bring to the table. And let me tell you what far more powerful is. The literal demonic possession, not demonic possession, satanic possession of a person. And by the way, people say this all the time. Listen, the devil's messing with me or Satan's messing with me. What they mean to say is one of Satan's demons is messing with me. That's what they mean to say. What they're talking about is exactly that. But Satan doesn't directly mess with anybody unless there's somebody of great significance that has radical influence over an overwhelming majority of people. Like, for example, I believe President Trump was directly attacked by Satan. I think that Hitler may have been directly possessed by Satan. I think Stalin may have been possessed by Satan. Certainly Joe Biden could very well be possessed by Satan. There's a lot of people that are leaders whose decisions make a substantial difference across the globe that Satan himself will focus on, because remember, he's not omnipresent. Right. And he certainly isn't omnipotent. So what we know for a fact is that, and we know this biblically, is that the Antichrist, he will be filled. I believe he will be demonically inspired, not demonically, satanically inspired. He is the epitome of that. He is referred to as the beast, which is a very important distinction. So I don't think AI can touch the level of sophistication in brutal, raw anger and vengeance and defiance towards God. It is a satanically inspired element, and it's far more brilliant than anything AI can bring to the table.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think those points are great that you just brought up, because you look at Satan, he is doing all that he can to avoid his retirement plan. His retirement plan is most unpleasant. The lake of fire forever and ever and ever. The worst of the worst is reserved for him. So all of the emotional attachments that go along with that, artificial intelligence wouldn't have that. So he fills the man. Here's the other interesting thing with Satan being the one who possesses Antichrist. He's going to appear to be omnipresent, and he's going to appear to be omniscient because of AI. So because of the databases and everything, he's going to appear to know everything. So Satan will be able to tap through Antichrist all of the databases on the planet. Right. And appear to be everywhere, appear to be all-knowing, because that's what Satan wants. He wants to be God. He can't be God. Well, guess what? Technology is the tool that he's going to be able to use to most appear like God. And, okay, so now one more thing before—
Can I interrupt you before you say—
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and the other thing to keep in mind is Satan is all about the long game. Right? This is a very important statement to make. He's all about the long game. So I believe from the inception of technology, Satan has been manipulating and moving all of it in a way that he will obtain the greatest advantage from it. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. It's a Genesis 50:20 situation where all the things that were meant for evil, God has been taking and using for good, with the Bible programs we have, the things that we're doing right now, all the tools that have been given to us. But Satan has done everything that he can to manipulate it in a way so when the time comes for all of it to come into fruition, the results of the long game come into play, just like we're seeing in society right now, culture, so on and so forth. It's all about the long game to Satan.
Yeah. You familiar with, it's called the Burning Man. It's a celebration in the California desert. It happens every year. And they build temples, and they just do these really bizarre things. They got music fests and all this stuff.
And I
It's
should feel like I think I should have to, like, I should be able to know this, but
okay. Well, it's been a while.
I don't know anything about it. I feel bad.
Okay, it's been going on for several years. It's been happening somewhere in the Mojave Desert. It's out in the middle of nowhere, between like here and Nevada or something like that. And think of Mad Max, right? And then put Mad Max into an arena of some spiritual music festival. And so what it is, it's a lot of the people that are part of this, they come out of Silicon Valley. They're millionaires and billionaires, and they get into this weird worship stuff. And I've read some of these things about them over the last several years, and they go there and they will talk about these beings that are present there that have given them information for technology that they have put into place in Silicon Valley. And so when you look at some of the advances in technology, you wonder how much of it goes along with exactly what you're saying. So much of it being demonically influenced because Satan is playing the long game. And then take it to another position, James. This guy in the video with CNN, with what's his name, he says they got to hack the human body. To hack the human body, it's got to be in you.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know how much we can go along that path, but I mean, you're looking at it going, well, you know, what is this? Because didn't he say ultimately they have to hack the human body in order to get this system created?
Yeah. So listen, so this is kind of an interesting situation. It's actually very difficult to be able to describe without us getting
in trouble.
Without us getting in trouble. But let me just simply say this. If AI is going to come into its full fruition as people want it to, what they're trying to do is they're trying to give the intelligence that comes from what's achievable through the mechanisms of AI, but yet add some mechanism of conscious to it, right? But the problem is this, and so what they think is the answer is they want to put things inside of you that will enable you to be able to have or take advantage or harness the advantages that come from the intelligence produced by computers. So we see examples of this, right, from the past. Like, for example, your heart doesn't work, you get a pacemaker, it helps regulate it, right? It's a machine that does the thinking for you. There's no problem, you know, that kind of a thing. But the issue is, and he let it, I think it was a Freudian slip. The issue is the more of this machinery you end up putting in your body, because that's exactly what it is. The more of this machinery you begin to put in your body, the less function you are able to take advantage of with your mind. So think about it like this. My heartbeat is involuntary. Okay. So it just beats. I don't think about it. I can't control my heartbeat. There are some people that learn how to do it. You can somewhat. You can, increase your activity and that'll inspire your heart to just beat really quickly. Mm-hmm. There's lots of different ways you can change your heartbeat, but it is involuntary. I don't sit there and tell my heart, beat, 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 beat. It's a function of my brain. It's an extension of what my brain does. It sends a certain signal with a very particular rhythm to the brain that tells the muscle to do what it needs to do in order to be able to put blood throughout the system and allow everything to work the way it does. I'm not a cardiothoracic surgeon, but I can tell you that the blood is pumped through the blood into the body. The body takes advantage of all the oxygen that the lungs put into the blood from you breathing in. And what you're breathing out is when the blood comes back to the lungs to get replenished with oxygen, the poison that is in that blood gets breathed out through the lungs because the lungs extract it. And that's what happens. So all of this is involuntary, right? The brain knows automatically what to do. Now, let's say I introduce a pacemaker. Now, I don't want to scare anybody who has a pacemaker, but let's say introduce a pacemaker. Well, there are inspired impulses. I don't want to say magnetic because I don't think they're magnetic impulses. I think they're just electrode impulses that are regulated by a machine that based on the calculations for your specific body, keep the heart regulated at a very particular pace. When it begins to recognize that there is heightened activity, then more blood needs to go to the system quicker, so the heartbeat begins to increase. And of course, something like a pacemaker regulates that heartbeat, right? It actually tells it to do something using electric impulses that the brain should be telling it to do, but it takes over for the brain. Now imagine if you look at this, then you're basically saying, in essence, you have a piece of machinery in you that is doing something that your brain is no longer accomplishing. Mm-hmm. Right? You're overtaking it. Well, that's what they want to do with AI. Mm-hmm. They want to be able to put many things into the body that will overtake what might be involuntary and effectively, in some cases, very voluntary, right? Like, for example, we have technology now that can control the electric impulses that tell the muscles to tighten and not tighten with people that have nerve damage. They're doing stem cell research to figure out how to integrate certain types of machineries that send impulse to the muscles so that when your brain says walk, your body knows to walk, and it's not doing it through the nervous system. It's doing it through a form of machinery that's able to detect what the brainwave activity is. It's taking over a part of the body. So imagine as things become more and more advanced, what they're going to start doing, bro, is they're going to start taking over more and more and more and more and more and more and more parts of your body. Mm-hmm. Thus, where he talks about the internalizing of AI, that's exactly what he's talking about. Before you know it, all of the involuntary function may very well be taken over, but pretty soon that reaches into the voluntary, and the consciousness that you possess might not be able to control what the machinery actually does, right? So, for example, here's a great example. If I have something that controls all my limbs and my body function, and I see a dog running at me very quickly, the machinery may say danger, 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 and tell you to run away. And your brain might not say, I don't want to run away, but you still run away because the machinery, the AI, doesn't know that that dog running towards you is your pet, or the dog running towards you is going to be friendly as long as you don't run away scared, right? AI is beginning to take over, and that's exactly what I think that's going to be the unforeseeable problem that is going to exist. And actually, quite frankly, this may be very anticipatory in nature, in the sense that those people that are doing it do have the foreseeability. Maybe it may be a new way of exercising control over people and turning them into basically these human sort of drones that kind of just do whatever they tell them to do. But that's kind of the picture that's being drawn here. And Tommy, it's scary.
That is. Well, he actually said they'll be, once it's in you, they can hack you and then they can manipulate.
That's right.
Humanity. Yep. And then he brought in what the pandemic has done is it's created an even greater database for everything.
Very scary, bro. But
you look at that, but all of this describes the system of the beast.
Yes.
And the beast Antichrist has to have this power over everything. While you're talking, I couldn't help but think of these two TV series that used to be on a long time ago when you were probably a very little boy, The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman. And do you remember those? The $6 Million Man, they had these legs, like they lost their legs or lost the ability to use their legs, paralyzed. It was Lee Majors that was the $6 Million Man. I think he had a bionic eye, or the Bionic Woman did, or whatever it was. And they could see things that nobody else could see. They could jump almost like a Superman and things like that. But their bodies were augmented with machinery, which we see happening now with somebody who's paralyzed. But they have projected into the future with these incredible legs, incredible eyes, and things like that. So when you look at it, well, what kind of person wouldn't want to have? It's going to be sold as such a wonderful thing. All of it is. Well, you get a better body. People who are paralyzed are able to walk. Well, why would I not want a better brain? But what you're describing is the reality of the direction it's going to go. One other question before we get to the last couple of things is, do you actually see this happening before Antichrist, where this is the system, or maybe it's tied into the mark of the beast? Because once a person receives the mark of the beast, they cannot reverse that.
Yeah. So look, I see this as the modern day Tower of Babel. I think there's a certain point that this is going to get to where God is in essence going to confuse it and put it to a stop. And what will end up happening is at that point, I think it'll probably coincide at around the same time. The church will be taken up, and then the rest of the world won't need to produce mechanisms like that because they're going to realize something very quickly. There is no more resistance to what they're trying to accomplish. Right. And the mechanism of globalism will grow. The uprising of the Antichrist will happen, and there won't be much resistance tied to it other than the 144,000 Jews that we know about. And I think that's going to bring us to that place.
Yeah. Fascinating. That was great. Okay. The next two we'll do a little bit quicker. That was really good. Russia. They're both about Russia. So what is the situation? I know you've talked about both of these this week. Russia shot down satellite. I want to come to that last. But Russia, Belarus, I read 100,000 troops right now. What is it? Ukraine says around 100,000 Russian troops have mobilized on their border, prompting fears of an invasion or permanent military presence. We have Belarus situation. We got the gas line situation. We have Europe that's looking at freezing. Where do you see this going?
So I did a video on this too. And this is a serious issue, right? What we're seeing going on is pretty amazing. Look at this. We have seen the European Union right now continue to act independently of one another with all the nations that kind of make it up. And they've kind of been cruising along and kind of doing what they can to kind of survive. Well, now the problem is they're getting very angry. These globalists are beginning to get very angry with what Belarus is doing. And as Belarus is making the decision to deal with the immigration, or shall we say illegal immigration problem that's going on, and all of the people that are looking for some kind of help and trying to come into their borders, they're successfully defending their borders as they should. And you've got Putin, who's looking at this as a real opportunity to make some extra money. So he sees the division between what's going on in the EU and with Belarus, and he goes to the leader of Belarus, which they are very, very good friends, because obviously they have to be in order for him to set up his people on the eastern border to attack Ukraine, right? So he's in the process of doing that. He says, listen, I'm gonna send in a bunch of my troops over there. We'll call it a joint exercise, but it'll show a strong show of force that we are working together in this. And then as all of that is happening, then you have the president of Belarus basically say, go ahead and do what you want to do, but you know what? I'm cutting off your gas pipeline, your natural gas pipeline. And the EU just freaks out, and they lean on the United States to condemn Belarus for doing it. The Belarus is going to be more resolved in their position concerning that. And then for the cherry on top that nobody is talking about and nobody's pointing out and nobody is astute enough to recognize is the fact that Putin is saying, hey, I'd love to get that natural gas over to you, because most of that natural gas is coming from us. I'd love to get it to you. But the reality of it is Belarus is closing their pipeline, and it's kind of none of our business. We really can't do anything about that. And, it's going to kind of get to the point where we're going to have to do something about it. So in the meantime, Putin is laughing his rear off all the way to the bank, because he's taking that money or taking that gas. He's selling it to China, when in reality, all that money is going into his pocket for the acquisition of other energy that he needs, that he actually is lacking, like oil, right? Natural gas, he's not lacking. He's looking for oil. So he's doing that. He's working with Turkey, that's poking 15 zillion holes in the Mediterranean, saying that they are energy independent, which they're dying. They're not. And he's working with getting some kind of a land bridge going on that way, where he could actually run oil up that way. Oh, and by the way, did I forget to say the United States of America patted him on the back and said, no problem, go ahead and build that pipeline. Yeah. So that pipeline is finally finished. By the way, the one that literally was being held off because of one wonderful President Trump, who is keeping that from happening. So now you've got an energy pipeline, multiple energy pipelines that are going around not just Belarus, but are going around all of the other Eastern and Western European nations that Putin has complete and total control over. And he doesn't have the foreseeability to recognize the fact that as he begins to sell some of that oil and even hijack OPEC a little bit, right, When all that stuff begins to go away and it goes further north and goes into Asia Minor and so on and so forth, he's going to realize, I don't have what it takes to power this up or to power that up or to do this or to do that. And pretty soon, you know what he's going to do? He's going to say, we're friends with Israel. We know how much they have. You know what? Turkey, we're out of stuff. You're going to be out of stuff. Syria, listen, they're our regular border. Let's start getting involved with other people. Let's get Ethiopia involved. Let's get these people involved. Let's get those people involved. We have part of Libya. We'll take control of our assets that exist in the Mediterranean. We're going to attack from all regions, and we're going to basically do what Ezekiel chapter 38 says. And Saudi Arabia, who's very friendly with Russia, just like Russia's friendly with everybody else, is going to say, what evil has occupied your mind? What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, and they're going to be particularly puzzled because they have all the natural resources they need. And they're probably going to be wondering, why didn't you go to us for any of that stuff?
That was great. That was great. I love it. I also know why you were a little puzzled when I said Belarus. It's Belarus.
Yeah, no, I know what you for a second, I was like, I know what he's saying. Yeah. Because I thought you were talking about like off-road.
No, I'm very gifted at getting words all mixed up. So one more question. Russia shot down a satellite. Bada boom, bada bing.
So this one is crazy. So Russia has decided that they are going to shoot down a satellite. They're testing their missiles, and they don't mind sacrificing the satellite. But what Russia probably did think about, but actually didn't give a rip, was they did this unilaterally. They shot this satellite down with the missile. There are 1,500 pieces that are trackable that came from this satellite that are going in orbit that now has put the International Space Station in danger. It's put lots of other assets in danger that are in space and just made space flight a whole lot more difficult because these things are going to be up there for a little while. I think this is, of course, Russia buying themselves some time. But basically, as everybody started complaining, the United States is upset. The State Department's freaked out. Russia's pretty much telling everybody, y'all can shove it. Because we're going to do whatever we want to do. We're doing this unilaterally. Tough luck, it's already done. Their whole philosophy was, we'll do it and apologize later. They knew dang well what they were doing, right?
Oh, yeah.
While they were out trying to shoot Sputnik 14 or whatever it was. I mean, I don't know what the name of the satellite was. They knew what was going to end up happening, and they just don't care. And guess what? The rest of the international community isn't going to do a darn thing. You want to know why? Because the United States won't do a darn thing. And this goes to show the inconsequentiality of the United States as it relates to the global community. The global community is going to, in essence, ignore Russia and say that Russia is not a big deal. But can I just throw out a possible scenario? I'm not saying this is going to happen. It's just a possible scenario. I think the international community is going to get to the point where they're going to go back and they're going to say, listen, Russia's too big of a problem for us to deal with. Who cares? Let's let them go. Let them be. Let them do whatever they want to do. Forget it. Let's just go. And then they're not going to know what to do when this thing in Israel happens, when they attack Israel. And I think what's going to happen is when they do attack Israel, they're going to say, you know what? There's only one guy that can deal with this. He's the guy that leads nation number 10 or whatever it is in their global society, for lack of a better term, the new revived Roman Empire. We need to have that guy come in and fix the whole thing. And I promise you, at the same time that happens, something like God destroying Russia is going to actually take place. Yep. By the way, it is interesting. You should probably tell your guys not to talk in the background because the microphone is picking up their conversation completely.
What are they saying?
I don't know because I'm paying attention to what I'm saying, but they can be heard talking.
Wow. You know what?
You might want to let them know.
I am right now.
Okay. They stopped talking right now at this very moment. But anyway.
Yeah.
So I think this might be one of the things that might push the final Antichrist to prominence.
Yeah.
Potentially. I'm not saying the missile itself, but I'm saying what happens with Ezekiel 38.
Well, I've often thought when you look at Ezekiel 38, I look at the red horse, the black horse, the pale horse, and so forth. The world's going to be in such turmoil. It's at that point that Antichrist is going to rise to power. He could rise to power before then, but listen, he confirms the covenant. That's what begins the tribulation period.
Yep.
It's not the rapture that begins it. It's not the Ezekiel 38 war that begins it. But something's going to give way to the world leader saying, we need that guy. And it's not going to be when things are going great. it's going to be when things are going like, they're tanking now. They're going to tank worse because Antichrist has to have the will of the people, the want of the people. He's going to have charisma. He's going to be super smart, possessed by Satan, as you said earlier.
Yep.
Man, just great program today. Great program today, James. Thank you very much.
And keep in mind too, bro, the geopolitical infrastructure that's forming in the Middle East is the perfect conduit to create this functional and relational mess that's on the way. It's perfect. It's already brewing. The storm
I got to
is
ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. You did a program just the other day on Afghanistan and all of the geopolitical stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to. So what's it called? I'm going to watch it.
Let me look it up. Give me 1 second. I'll tell you. It is, the title of that is Afghanistan is proof that Bible prophecy is true. And actually, it's a very interesting happening that's going on over there right now. As a matter of fact, what we're actually beginning to see form in Afghanistan is more evidence of what we've already been talking about, right? I will show you this because I think it's actually worthwhile showing you. Might as well do it while we're kind of talking about this, because I show this in the video. These are not U.S. soldiers. These are Afghani Taliban who are using military equipment that was left behind by flashbang. Okay. And they are doing this. Wow. There's this military parade through Kabul to show everybody Americans are weak. They no longer have a say in the region, right? Because if this was during the time that Trump was president, they would never be doing this. They would never be flying our assets like this. But they are flying our assets. And what is even more interesting about them flying our assets is the fact that Joe Biden's not doing anything about it, doesn't even care.
No, he won't do anything about it.
Yeah, doesn't even give a rip. Yeah. So why that's... Oh, go ahead.
No. All this goes back to what you were talking about early on in the program. They can't have this nationalistic thing. They're going to have the control AI. They're going to have control of AI. They're going to have control of the monetary system. They don't want. I think they love having the terrorists cause all the chaos they possibly can.
Absolutely, they do. But what's even more significant about this is that the United States is gone. It has no control over anything going on in the Middle East. And guess who the new big daddy is? It's Russia. Remember, the two embassies that have the strongest influence in Afghanistan right now are China and Russia. And their operations and their embassies never were disrupted by everything that happened with the Taliban during what I would call the horrible, disgraceful transition that actually took place. Yep. So let's go, Brandon. And just remember the fact that because of all of that, it has contributed greatly to the destabilization that we are looking at in the region. Yeah. And the geopolitics of that region have so radically shifted that the biggest influence right now in the Middle East, geopolitically speaking, is going to be Russia.
Yep.
Surprise!
Just like the Bible says.
Yep.
Wow, what a quinky dink. Everything is happening just like the Bible said.
I'm so shocked.
So shocked. What a shock. Hey, so we're at the end. How can people watch you?
Calvary Chapel Signal Hill. That is the name of our YouTube channel. You should go there, where it's always attached to the show notes of where this is airing. So you can go there. Also, please go to Instagram and subscribe or follow me on Instagram. I just hit 16,000 followers. Thank you, guys.
Nice.
It's hey, bro, come on. It's not. I mean, you got hundreds of thousands, bro. What are you talking about? I mean, it's wonderful. Numbers don't matter, but I love the ability to be able to minister to people. And so love your guys' support. And then, of course, we're also on Facebook. So take your pick. We're all available. You can also go to CalvaryChapelSignalHill.com, or, of course, you can download the Calvary Chapel Signal Hill app or our radio app, which is Light on the Hill.
Yeah. Great. Fantastic. Great today with you, James. Again, as I expected. Next week, just so you know, for Tom and James, it's going to be the day after Thanksgiving. What happened is, James, I've been taking questions on my Instagram stories. I have a whole bunch of questions. I've been able to answer some of them on his channel. I can't get to all of them. I've been promising people I'm going to have them on Tom and James. Not today. I won't be able to, obviously. Next week, I got a whole bunch of questions loaded up in my phone from our viewers. And a lot of them say, ask James this, ask James that. Why does James say this? And so we're going to have a great time. So that's
It's
going
going
to
to be a special Black Friday
It's
episode.
yes, it is. It's the day after Thanksgiving. It's going to be great amongst some of the other news that's going to be popping between now and then. This is great. Been great being with everybody. I also appreciate you going to my website, hopeforourtimes.com. Appreciate that, and like and share our videos on YouTube. It really does help us until they permanently remove us. It helps tremendously to be able to get the messages out there. The more likes and shares we have, the more YouTube is inspired to pass the videos out to other people. So
That'd be right.
thank you very much, everybody. Have a great, blessed weekend and Thanksgiving, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Love you guys. Adios.
Peace.
باي باي مع
Out.
السلامة. أنا بحبك قوي.